everybody.
Hello. Hello from Cincinnati.
Yeah, Ross couldn't make the travel here, so we are piping him in via our wonderful advanced technology today. Thank you, Skype. And we'll get going. What you have seen so far, starting from last night, how many people here attended Freddie Sloan's talk last night? Quite a number, okay. How many people were here for Glenn Kreisberg's talk this morning? Almost everybody. And Glenn and Cameron Broughton? Okay. All three of those talks are basically the setup for this talk right here. So if you sat through those talks, each one of them have elements and themes that we're going to talk about here. So those are sort of prelude to what we're going to discuss here. So you have had sort of the learning curve. You're on the upward climb. Now we're going to hit some of the advanced stuff right now. So what we're going to talk about is essentially one area of the country in southern Ohio where there are a whole series of earthworks, effigy earthworks, big geometric earthworks, and we're going to talk about who may have built them, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what those people that built those various earthworks, what their cosmology was based on the fragmentary knowledge that's come down to us, and how that seems to be playing out in our world today. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Ross here so that he can begin. So we'll just let him give some commentary here before we start with the slides. Ross?
All right. Thank you, Jeff. I want to sort of precurse this by saying that Jeff is very much a hard-nosed scientist with some philosophy. And we can be grateful for that because of the research we do. And I, on the other hand, am kind of a dreamer. I have a background in philosophy, and I try to anchor it down with a little science. So when Jeff and I met a number of years ago, we almost immediately knew that we had two parts to the same mystery, and that if we worked together, we might be able to come up with some answers. So this program is a part of that. And hopefully we'll be able to introduce some new concepts today. We're going to be taking the old ones, like Jeff mentioned, some of the ones that we've already have been discussed, and take them to a different level, or at least present them in a different way. The Earth is like a living creature. We've always been told this by Native American people, that we should respect and love Mother Earth, and we have the same coming from the ancient Greeks and Egyptians, who always wished to give the Earth a spiritual identity and a living identity. And going from that angle of vision, one of the first things we realized was that the Earth's magnetic field, what we call a magnetic field, was known to the ancients as her spirit, her spiritual aura, which is pretty much a self-evident fact, but when you switch the terminologies and you get the idea that that spirit is a magnetic field, well, things change. From the ancient Greeks, we have a wonderful mythological tradition, as with the Egyptians and other cultures, such as the Native American, that teach us that there is a father sky and a mother earth, and that they've always had an ongoing kind of loving relationship, and that this relationship produces offspring. Well, one of my early influences in this life was John Michel, and I know he's already been given a lot of credit, but I want to give him just a little bit more because between Rudolf Steiner and John Michel, I've been able to come to grips with a lot of what is transpiring today. As a sort of overview, I want to note that I believe that we're headed into a period when Megalithomania, or in other words, knowledge of the subtle earth and the way the ancients attempted to incorporate their architectures into the earth spirit, is going to be going more and more on the ascendant and become more and more popular with people around the world. And so it's from that kind of point of view that we're making this presentation. The Thunderbird and the Serpent is a theme that we like to espouse for this. And when we talk about the serpent, we're not just talking about the Serpent Mound, although the Serpent Mound is the epitome of what we believe the ancients intended for a serpent to represent. And I'm speaking on a worldwide basis. And when we speak of the Thunderbird, we're not just speaking of a mythological creature who shot lightning bolts from its eyes and created thunder by flapping its wings, but we're talking about a principle, just like with the serpent, we're talking about a principle. And one of the themes we're going to go through is an attempt to give a precise alchemical analogy to the Thunderbird and the serpent. So I think that I'm going to give this over to Jeff now, and he can go over a couple of slides, and then I'll chime in when Jeff feels it's appropriate.
Okay, thanks, Ross. So, let's see if I can. How about that?
It's him and him.
There we go. Ross will be the disembodied voice that you'll hear chime in. Ross, are you there?
I'm still here, yeah.
Okay.
I see Tor's head on the screen. Tor's standing there.
Okay, so let's just start out by grounding everybody a little bit on the area that we're going to be talking about. I had a map in here, but we kind of cut it for time. For those that are geographically challenged, think of the area as Ohio and some of the surrounding states, Kentucky, Indiana, over into West Virginia. This is the area where these major earthworks that we're going to be talking about were built. And in particular, in this area where Serpent Mound is, there's evidence of Native American habitation that date back to the end of the last ice age. So that's what we call the Paleo-Indian period. And that lasts up until about 8,000 BC or so. And then from about 8,000 BC to about 1,000 BC, that's known as the Archaic period. And within that, there are different, sort of attributions given by archaeologists, including the glacial cane culture. And this is where it appears that the very, very tall people known as the Allegheny people seem to have arisen from this era. And then we move into the woodland period, early and middle woodland period, where the Lenape culture, who supplanted the Allegheny people, came in. That culture is known by many archaeologists, or was attributed as being the Adena culture. And then sort of slightly overlapping them and following them was the Hopewell culture, which lasted till about 500 AD. And then there were several subsequent cultures that moved into the Ohio Valley. One that's been known of as the intrusive mound culture, and then the Fort Ancient culture, which comes in around 1100 AD, and then